for this special web chat, back to school web chat with HISD. We know you have a lot of questions about the start of this school year. Classes start on September 8th, and they will start online. So we know that means you are wondering who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we want to get you as many answers as possible. And so gracious to join us this evening is the interim superintendent for HISD, Dr. Grenita Lathan, to answer your questions. Hello there and good evening, Dr. Lathan.
Good evening, Mia. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the 2020-21 school year for the students in HISD.
That's right. We know it's going to come with its challenges, but we want parents and students to feel good about this school year, to feel empowered and have everything that they need to know to start on that first day, right?
Right.
Wonderful. Well, let's get started. We are asking you, all of our viewers who are watching and joining us this evening, to send us your questions. We have a team. They are monitoring the questions so we can get your questions answered. This is about you. So our first question, Dr. Lathan, comes from Tasha Michelle. She asked, are the kids going to have to be on video with their class for the full day, or will there be flexibility like true homeschooling? I think a lot of people are asking, like Tasha, what is the schedule? What is the day going to look like, Dr. Lathan?
And that's an excellent question, Tasha. So the day will look like there will be engagement, live interaction, engagement with the classroom teachers, and then students also will be working at their own pace. So there will be opportunities where the student actually needs to log in and complete a lesson with the teacher. But students then will also have an opportunity to complete work on their own and then submit that work via our hub system.
So will
I just go a little bit,
yes,
a little bit for designated grade levels, there is this amount of time each day that students should be engaged. And all of our campuses will be holding a virtual open house or meet the teacher night between now and September 4th, where parents will be able to get their individual questions answered based on the school that their child attends.
And on that first day, Dr. Lathan, so if you were elementary school, should you log on? What would traditionally be the start time for elementary school, middle school, and high school?
So yes, so our campuses will send out an email and a communication. That communication will be via email, via text message, or via a phone call to tell the students and parents exactly what time they need to log on for the first day of school. We will pull attendance like we normally do on the first day of school and actually every day of the entire school year. But we will pull that information. My team and I will be looking at that information, asking questions of our area superintendents to find out what was the percentage of logins and participation on that first day of school. Any child that does not log on the first day of school, we'll be reaching out to them through our Students Within Reach program, trying to locate that student and their parents to get them logged in and engaged.
Right. Another question we have here is from Samantha Perez Richard. She asked, can I opt for virtual school all year, or will I have to unenroll my child and homeschool? So she's wanting to know, will there be a possibility for virtual school all year?
Yes, most definitely. The first phone call will go out to parents on August the 24th, where parents can select. And basically what we're asking them is to select either face-to-face or virtual starting October 19th. And they can make that choice to go 6 weeks at a time or the entire school year.
Okay, good question. Working to pull up some of more of your questions in case you're hearing a little feedback there. John Drury asked, what provisions are in place to provide technical support for distance learners? I assume he's speaking about everyone in general this time, but what type of technical support will be provided, Dr. Lathan?
We actually have an HISD hotline that parents can call 713-556-4636. Also, our instructional technology department will actually schedule one-on-one appointments for our students and their families to help them get connected or to answer any questions that they have. Also, today we launched our virtual parent education course. And so parents can actually access that course online, and it actually has additional information of who to contact with a particular problem or concern.
And that virtual parent education course, is that something they can access through the school district's website?
Through the school district website. And we're really excited about that. And our goal is for all of our parents to actually take the course before their child starts school on Tuesday, September 8th.
Okay, another question we have that just came in, Cassie Saravia wants to know, so will the teachers be actually teaching, or will they just be giving out work and telling kids to do the work?
Our teachers will actually be teaching. They'll also be giving out work. So it's going to be a combination. They'll be leading small groups. It's just everything will be virtually, like you and I are interacting right now. But our teachers will be engaged live with their students, and then also they will be assigning assignments out to their students.
Alexander Elias is asking about school dress code. He is questioning, dictating what the kids can wear in their own house. Let's talk about dress code. Is there some type of dress code that you are requesting for students participating in virtual school?
That's a great question. We focus more on dress code, of course, as when students return face to face. As it relates to when they are interacting with us in a virtual environment, of course, we want students to be dressed appropriately, just like we would want our staff to be dressed appropriately. So that is what we will be expecting of our students, for them to be dressed and be dressed appropriately.
Driana Barrett is asking, will schools be receiving devices to learn from home? So I think she's asking about students having devices perhaps in their homes.
Yes, any student that is in need of a device, and a device that we're defining, if they're pre-K2 student, an iPad. If they are a 3rd through 8th grade student, it is a Chromebook, and in our high school students, a laptop. They need to contact their campus and notify their principal, and we are collecting that information. We are actually deploying out devices as we speak, as soon as devices are coming in, and based on the information identified by student, we're deploying those devices. If students also do not have access to reliable internet, we're providing a hotspot. So let's say I have a device, but my internet is not great. They can actually contact us for a hotspot.
Sonia Patricia Garza Sonier asked, for kindergartners, are they expected to get 8 hours of instruction work per day? What are the expectations there for online learning for our very young students?
So kindergarten, great question. Kindergarten students will not be engaged 8 hours per day. There will be a certain amount of time that's designated for kindergartners to engage with their classroom teachers, and then they will be given assignments like their other peers and other grade levels to work also at their own pace. That information will be provided by their school and or kindergarten teacher or any grade level via email and communication through that virtual town hall or open house meeting that will be presented by the individual campuses.
Dr. Lathan, I know we mentioned at the start of our chat here just a few minutes ago that all HISD schools will start online, but Trina Brooks asked, are all HISD schools virtual, and for how long?
Great question, Trina. So virtually right now, it's September 8th through October 16th. We're all prayerful that the COVID-19 positive cases will decrease in our city and the positivity rate will decrease and go down to hopefully a percentage that will allow us to return our students face to face, either in a transition mode or fully engagement. If, students start on September 8th, during the middle of September, as we look at numbers and look at data, we will make the decision if we need to continue beyond October 16th.
Great. Sloan Pardue asked, and I think there are a lot of people who have asked about athletics. Sloan is asking specifically for high school. What will athletics look like for high schools this year?
Great question about athletics. When we're back in school, face to face, our athletics department will work with the athletic directors on all of our high school and middle school campuses based on UIL guidelines. And then that's when, athletics will start up. But everything will be based on the UIL criteria, and then also our students being back face to face.
Shanti Anthony asked, do they have a lunch break in between classes? We know kids have to be fed in order to be focused, right, Dr. Lathan?
So yes, students do have, as a part of their virtual learning day, they actually will have a lunch break. And that's a great, let's talk about lunch and talk about our meals program. We will be providing breakfast and lunch to our students. Parents will have an option of curbside pickup where they can go to a designated campus and pick up breakfast and lunch. Will be providing deliveries out to large apartment complexes, and we've identified those complexes of where students could actually walk outside of their apartment complex and pick up their meals there. But the schedule will be built in for them to have a lunch break, and then we will also be providing opportunities for students and their parents to pick up a breakfast and a lunch.
Cassie Saravia is asking, will teachers be available at all times? I assume they mean during the traditional school day hours.
Teachers will be available during the traditional school day hours, but the teachers will have a schedule, virtual schedule that's like they have during face-to-face instruction. So it will be a schedule that's designated for student engagement. They will still get their time where they have their own individual, what we call that their prep time, where they'll have time to plan, and then there will be times where they are actually connecting and setting up times with students.
I've heard a common theme between a lot of parents and their questions, concerns about parents being busy during the workday doing their own work, and then their children working virtually and needing assistance. So I have quite a few parents, Steve Moe, asking, will kids be able to do work in the afternoon due to parents working an 8 to 4 job?
That's a great question. So students will actually have until 11:59 p.m. every night to actually complete their assignment. So if by chance their parent is not available to help them to, let's say, after 6 o'clock, then the student and that parent can go back and retrieve the information from their particular class, and they can then work with their child and submit that information. Some of our students will also be assigned to academic tutors. Those tutors will be providing assistance to the students either during the instructional time or after the instructional time, similar to what we do when we're face-to-face, where some students are involved in tutoring programs or they receive intervention supports. We will have those designated supports also during virtual learning.
I think this is a good follow-up question from Shantaray Johnson. She says, I'm a single mother of 3 and I don't have any help at home. When I return back from work, or when I return to work, I will have no one to assist my children on virtual. Is there help during the school period? I mean, is it just like being in the classroom for a child who needs help or needs assistance and there's not a parent there per se?
So that goes back to what I was saying about some of the students will be assigned academic tutors. And so what I would encourage parents to do is to contact the school and make sure that when the classroom teacher reaches out, classroom teachers will start reaching out to students and families the week of August the 24th. But if they want to make the school aware of that prior to, they can call the school main number for the school and leave a message on the voicemail if they do not reach a staff member. That parent can also call our hotline and to provide the information to us, and we will forward it to the school because we're looking at that data on previous student performance to see which students would need additional supports.
I'm going to lump some questions here together because they're concerning students with disabilities and students who fall into the special education category. Betty Gribben asked, how are we going to teach special needs kids? I have a 15-year-old that I need help with. And then Diana Ortiz also asked, will special accommodations be made for children on the 504 plan? Will they provide tutoring? A lot of concern about special education and still getting those accommodations for students with them.
So thank you for those questions around students that are in need of special education services. Several things that are going to actually occur over the next several weeks. Number one, we're going to host a virtual town hall for parents of students with special needs. They'll be able to ask questions of our special education staff in HISD. And then based on a child's disability or if they're on the 504 plan, there's going to be a specialized town hall for just those families. So if I have a child that has a 504 plan, then there will be a meeting scheduled with those parents to answer their questions. Every child that has an 504 or special education IEP will be contacted personally by special education staff to check in with the parent to see what their needs are, what their concerns are, and to discuss their child's IEP with them and the plan for virtual education. All of this will occur over the next several weeks as we prepare to receive all students on Tuesday, September 8th.
I think parents need to understand that not everything on day one is going to be presented. Am I correct, Dr. Lathan? We're going to start class and then, things will follow from there.
That's great. That's true. And, we're calling this the year of flexibility. But I want to make sure parents understand that we don't mean it's the year of flexibility or relaxing our academic standards. What we're saying to members of Team HISD is we must be flexible. We must bend and adjust to the need based on the needs of our students and the families that we serve. There will be kinks on the first day of school. Now let's just think about this. First day of school, even face to face, there are kinks. There are late buses. Sometimes the lunches are late. Sometimes there's a line for registration. Well, all of that's going to occur virtually this time around. And we are asking for parents to be patient with us. Give us a call. We know our numbers, like sometimes, the numbers are busy or they'll go to voicemail, but we will be working to address the needs that arise on the first day of school, which is Tuesday, September 8th.
Thank you for reminding folks there. And that first 6 weeks, we know for certain will be online in case you were just joining us as well. I know we've talked about academics and the focus there, and we've had some questions as well about grades and homework. Vanessa Bates asks, will homework for elementary children be required?
So homework and so it's because we're in a virtual environment, it will be, here are the assignments that need to be completed for students and with the designated or amount of time for students to complete them. But students will receive assignments even in the virtual environment.
I guess it's all homework, technically, right? Because we're doing it all at home now.
Yes.
Thank you for putting that into perspective for us. Another question we had, concerns about teachers having the technology and the access that they need. Do all HISD teachers have the computers and technology that they need to carry out virtual learning?
We have about 1,800 laptops that we'll be trading out for some desktops and some laptops that are outdated. Same thing as with parents. If our teachers are in need of a device and or a hotspot, they need to contact their school principal. We deployed laptops to our teachers in the spring, and we will continue to deploy the devices that they need so that they can be successful also.
I know we've also received some questions about new student registration, people who have moved. Ms. Moore asked, I have a child that's coming from another district. How do I go about that?
So our campuses are, and it is in a limited format as far as the number of people are taking registration or completing that registration. What I would advise the parent to do is to contact the school because the school will have the designated times that they can actually enroll students, or to call our main number and we can get that information to them, 713-556-4636.
Christy Theus has concerns about children who are being left home alone because their parents must work. Are there provisions? Is there a place that HISD is setting up or providing for families who need a place for their child to be during the school day with adult supervision?
So we're partnering with the local churches, and we will be sharing that list out within the next 2 weeks of those designated partners that have agreed to provide a space for students whose parents really need for them to be somewhere during the school day. And so we'll be sharing that information out. Those designated locations will be providing meals and PPE for our students that will actually be at those different locations. We have a couple of other agencies that we're working with to identify possible scholarships for students. And when I say scholarship, because they are a tuition-based type of organization where students will have that opportunity to go to.
Dr. Lathan, I want to turn now to some questions concerning once we do return to campus. Not to get ahead of ourselves here, but these are the same questions that a lot of our viewers are asking. Allison Hinkle asked, what will the protocol be for quarantining if there's a child that tests positive in school? Does the whole class have to quarantine for 2 weeks? What about siblings? Do parents need to show proof of negative COVID tests for children to return? Is this something that HISD is already looking at once you do return to campus? What happens when you have a COVID positive?
Yes, and so if let's just go with a classroom, let's use that scenario. If a student tests positive in a classroom, there are a series of questions that our Health and Medical Services Department will ask that student and their family. And then there will be additional questions and of the, let's say, the classroom teacher and other students. Let's say that everyone in class was in class all day with that particular student. There's a possibility, once again, that comes from our Health and Medical Services Director. I'm just kind of giving you the high level scenario, that class would be asked to quarantine, including the teacher, for a set number of days. And then based on they possibly came in contact with someone that tested positive. We never identify who the student nor staff member is that tests positive. So I want to make sure it's very clear. We will not share that information out. We will just say you possibly came in contact with someone. They would be quarantined. The building, that classroom would be deep cleaned. But depending on the movement of where that student was in the building and the impact and the number of people that he or she came in contact with, decisions will be made as it relates to the area of the building or the entire building. If indeed everyone needs to quarantine, and let's say there are no issues or symptoms during that time, then they would receive a clearance. And in that letter that we send out to staff and or parents, it would tell them of their return date.
When the students do return, we have a question from Shalika Rogers. She asked, can the students just wear face shields instead of masks when they return? Has it been determined what the students must wear, what type of face covering, Dr. Lathan?
So right now, based on our communicable disease plan committee, all of our students and staff will be wearing masks. Face shields have been purchased by TEA for all of our teachers. That is a question that I did receive also over the weekend as it relates to students. So the committee will be reviewing that request to see how we handle face shields. But right now in our manual, and it is available, like I said, the information is available on our reopening webpage, it is a mask for students and definitely for students right now.
Eve Harbor also asked, once students and staff are both back at school and folks do return in person, will teachers be expected to teach virtually and in person at the same time, or will there be designated teachers for families who choose to stay virtual?
It's our plan right now for teachers to teach, the teachers that are teaching face-to-face to teach face-to-face, and then designating teachers that will be virtual. Unless, but I will give you like maybe a difference or an exception to that. If by chance a teacher's schedule allows for them to have a period where they are just virtual. So not in a classroom where you're trying to do both, but let's say first, second, third period, I'm face-to-face, fourth period, I might be assigned a virtual class, and then the rest face-to-face. That would only be in limited situations where there are specialized certifications where we do not have the number of teachers that we need, or there's under enrollment in a particular course. For example, AP Physics, let's just use that as an example. There might be a possibility that we might need to share teachers across the district.
Being flexible. You said it's the year of flexibility.
Year of flexibility.
Yes.
But I want to say that though, I don't want, especially for our teachers, because it is a year of flexibility, but we still have to balance that with levels of responsibility and what people can handle and they can do, because this is going to be new for all of us when we come back with a with a combination of face-to-face and virtual learning.
So getting back to questions for the very start of school, we talked a little bit about once that time comes when students do return to on campus, but for the first day on September 8th when everyone is online. I have a question from Drianna Barrett. She asks, will we need to buy school supplies or uniforms this year? I think that's a really good question because everything's being done virtually, especially on the school supply side. Can you answer that for her?
Yes, so great question. Number one, we are relaxing our uniform policy for the 2020-21 school year. So let me make sure everyone understands what I mean by relaxation. Still need to be appropriate, attire needs to be appropriate, but we are not mandating certain colors, certain khaki pants. Mainly, you think about that from our various elementary and middle schools, or certain color polo shirts. As it relates to school supplies will still be needed. We are truly counting on at some point being back face to face. And so I would still encourage parents to buy the needed supplies that they need when we return face to face.
LaWanda Lynn asked a very good question. She asked, will counselors still check on at-risk students from the past year? And also, I wonder too as well, usually a child is there at school. If there's a need for them to talk to someone, they can go to a counselor. How will counseling services work for students?
Oh gosh, that's an excellent question. So let me talk about our emergency constraints. So our school board in April actually voted on some emergency constraints. And what I mean by emergency constraints is you think about it as goals. And these were goals or directives that they gave to me as a superintendent. The superintendent will not operate without taking care of the safety and well-being of all students. And so one of those constraints, and then from the constraints, we set up what we call progress measures. How are we going to measure that I'm following the will of the board as it relates to those constraints? Counseling, social and emotional contacts with students is a big one. We have wraparound specialists on 210 of our campuses. Those wraparound specialists, number one, are connecting students and parents with resources. Then our counselors, our deans, various other personnel, they're actually reaching out to our students, conducting wellness checks. Either it could be our nurse, based on a student that is identified in the computer that needs support through a nurse, or through another individual. So they will be conducting those wellness checks, those counseling checks. They will be recording that information in our student information system, so we can actually look at a report to see how many times did Grenita Lathan receive a contact from HISD, not only during virtual instruction, but when we also are back face to face.
So it sounds like at best, and trying to do your best, the school district's best, that is, that all the services that a student would traditionally be offered through the school, you guys are working to provide for students.
Yes, we are. And like I said, we'll be documenting that. And a lot of it will be, of course, virtually. A lot of it will be via the telephone.
This is a common theme, even without COVID happening, the STAR test, always questions about that, but especially now. Tricia Wolfenden asked, I have a second grader. Are they going to be STAR testing? Let's talk about the grades that traditionally take the STAR test and how the STAR test will be carried out this year, Dr. Lathan.
So let's separate out the different types of assessment. So as a second grader, her second grade child would be administered a district level assessment. STAR assessments start for third grade students per state law. And so we would be across the district in September. We will be administering assessments to students because we need to know where students are academically, whether we are face-to-face or in a virtual environment. Our job is still to make sure that children receive the best education possible, because I can guarantee you 15 years from now, when this is over, things are whatever they are, we won't say back to normal. An employer is not going to say, okay, Grenita, you get a pass because you were educated in Houston, the Houston Independent School District during the pandemic. The employer wants an employee that can deliver. And so during that time of virtual learning and when we move back face to face, we will continue to administer assessments to our students and progress monitor where they are.
Anitra Davis is asking about sports again. Hello, will volleyball season be canceled or postponed? District games are scheduled as early as August 25th, but practice is still banned. Can we get clarification, please, and thank you?
So I'm hoping that volleyball will be postponed and it will start up later in the school year when we are back face to face. That is my hope. And once things are, like I said, we're back face to face, we will start up practices, and then we will look at revising and adjusting the schedule. So some things that normally finish up around October, November for volleyball, they might just get started in October this year.
All right, let's talk about the important stuff as well. Of course, sports is important. Our extracurriculars are important. But in case people are just joining us, we are visiting with Dr. Grenita Lathan, the interim superintendent for HISD. She's answering your questions about going back to school on September 8th, the first 6 weeks will be all online virtually, and we want to let people know because there are some common concerns. What if they don't have a device? What if they don't have internet access? And what if they need help with tutoring and such? Can we cover just the basics again for our friends who are just joining us, Dr. Lathan?
Yes, thank you. So school begins Tuesday, September 8th, virtually. If your child is in need of a device being a laptop, Chromebook, or iPad, and they need a hotspot, please contact your local school. If you're unable to contact your school, your teachers will be reaching out to you the week of August the 24th. If you forget all of that, call 713-556-4636. We will take the information from you, make sure you get on the list of deployment, the deployment list for your particular campus.
Okay, lots of good answers there, lots of information. The website for the district, obviously, always a good resource for people as well. Let's talk about the staff now. We've talked a lot about students. A lot of families are just as concerned about staff because they are staff members themselves, but bus drivers, crossing guards, these types of employees who students don't necessarily need right now, where do things stand with them and their employment with the school district?
Well, we definitely need our bus drivers and our crossing guards because we're going to utilize, our bus drivers will help us with delivering meals out to our designated apartment complexes. And so we're going to utilize them. Also, we have bus drivers that can help us man our hotline. Like I said, that number is going to be busy, especially as we continue to get closer to the beginning of the school year. They can also serve as virtual attendance monitors, where they're virtually checking into a class to monitor the students' attendance, helping us make phone calls to students. So we're going to deploy, like you said, those staff members that are not normally in the classroom with students or in a building. We are going to assign them some different responsibilities during the time that we are virtually instructing our students so they can continue to be gainfully employed also.
Thank you for that answer. So we heard a lot of questions about sports, but what about other extracurricular activities? Isabella Stola Lerma asked, hello, how are you going to integrate extracurricular activities such as theater and music? Also, how will the magnet programs continue?
So I'm going to do the reverse. Let me do the magnet first. The magnet programs will continue. Our magnet office is also available, and you can go online. That information is available online. You can call our magnet office. We are still, like I said, all magnet programs are in place and they'll continue. As it relates to extracurricular activities, a lot of things will be held, of course, virtually between September 8th and October 16th. When we return face-to-face, there will be modifications and limits on the number of students that can be engaged in a particular after-school activity. For example, if they're in the chess club, there will be a certain number of students that can be, within a particular classroom. Some activities that are outside, of course, will have larger numbers, but all of that will be monitored in our communicable disease plan. We actually cover every area. We cover fine arts, we cover athletics, we cover instruction, and so that guidance is there. I will tell you, as it relates to that plan, as we receive additional information, we have an outstanding member on the committee with a medical background that she's providing us information, the latest report. So we will make those adjustments as needed once the committee reconvenes and as we get closer to face-to-face instruction. But after-school activities are still encouraged. Like I said, we're encouraging a lot of things, of course, virtually initially until things improve as it relates to the virus.
Okay. And once again, for folks who are just joining us, we have questions and concerns about children who would be left at home alone to learn because mom and dad have to go to work outside of the home. You had mentioned earlier that you are partnering with some community partners like churches. If you can fill us in again to let those parents know.
Sure. Within the next 2 weeks, we'll be releasing community partners that have volunteered to open up their churches or their locations as a safe place for students to go during the school day while parents are at work and students who need some additional assistance. And so that information will be released. Of course, it's free of charge. We will be providing breakfast and lunch at those locations, and also PPE for our students that will be there. Most of those churches are near some of our campuses, and so those will be the target audience of students that they will be targeting and inviting to attend. It will be registration driven, meaning because we have to monitor and control, of course, the numbers because each facility is different. And so we're right now in the facilities assessment stage of looking at those facilities, ensuring that there are no issues or concerns, and then as we partner with them.
And then let's talk about food for children who depend on their school lunch and sometimes school breakfast as well too. There are plans in place there to make sure that children receive their meals.
Yes, we'll be providing curbside meals, breakfast and lunch meals to our students at designated locations across the district. We also have identified large apartment complexes where we'll be actually delivering meals out to those locations. We will be publishing that information as we get closer to the start of the school year. We, of course, as it relates to being a part of the National School Lunch Program, there are certain federal guidelines that we must meet. And so as we identify those locations, we have to be approved for those locations. And so that's why we will not publish that list until we get just a little bit closer to the opening of the school year. I lost it, but we will be providing those meals.
We are covering a lot of ground here. We've talked everything from volleyball to lunch to technology access for children. We're going to wrap up here, Dr. Lathan. You have answered so many questions. Thank you so much for that. But before we go, we want to give people, the resources, key information, the key places to go. There's a phone number and then also the website, and just any general directions you can give parents in navigating the first day and the first few weeks, the first 6 weeks.
Okay, so to our Houston ISD website, www.HoustonISD/reopening. It has information on our reopening. Our hotline is 713-556-4636. Encourage parents to take the virtual parent enrollment course that we launched today, because it will provide them with additional information. And if all else fails, call your local school. Your principals will provide the information that you need. We are going to have a great year in Houston ISD. Parents, we need you as partners, but we are going to do what we need to meet the needs of our students. So thank you, parents, for your flexibility and understanding, and just allow us to serve you and your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lathan, for your time. Best of luck with everything. I'm sure we will visit again before the start of school, but until then, be well and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care.